You're listening to the Kristof podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. Hey everyone, welcome to the Kristof podcast, where I have conversations with inspirational people. My guest today is the great and inspirational Jason Redman. Jason is a retired Navy SEAL officer who was wounded in Fallujah. While he was in Fallujah, he was shot a total of 7 times to the arm and to the face. Not only has he recovered from these tremendous wounds, but he was able to share his story and create amazing companies that help other wounded warriors and tons of other people. His story is nothing short of inspirational, and I couldn't be more happy and more honored to have this conversation with him. Welcome to the Kristof podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Honored to be on, Kristof. Thank you.
Man, it's an absolute honor for you to be on this show. As I said a little bit offline beforehand, I've definitely been very humbled by hearing your story. I've being recently out of the Navy myself, I've definitely, at the very least, heard about you for the last 9 years of my career. Having just recently got out, so it's really cool. It's very humbling to be able to talk to you and share your story as well.
Thank you. Very blessed, man. That's it. I'm a blessed guy that got a second chance. You well know that not everybody does. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't get to come home. So I'm just trying to make the most of that. Absolutely,
and that's so true. And I say that all the time. And that was actually one of the many reasons I started this podcast. There's a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons is because I was sick and tired of people saying, I say, hey, how you doing today? Genuinely doing. And I hear, oh, just another day, or I'm living the dream, or whatever. Some like pessimistic, retort, just automatically firing back. And I was like, man, you don't know how lucky you have it right now. I mean, maybe it's not your favorite version of life right now that you want to be living, but you're alive, and that's a lot of things that people don't have, and because you're alive, you have the opportunity to go out there and do what you want. So here I am talking to you and all these other people. Your conversation number 31, and that's 31 people that are going out there. They're alive, and they know it, and they're getting after it, and they're doing what they want.
Yeah, especially to be alive here in America. I mean, that's something I talk a lot about, and you know it too. You've been in other places, and it's just, God, there's so many places where you cannot follow your dreams because you live in this society. Maybe it's war-torn. Maybe, there's a political caste system, whatever it is in some of the other countries in the world. Here it's like, hey, man, if you want it and you're hungry enough and you've got the work ethic and the grit, 90% of the time you can get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's all it's about. It's about working hard, and it's not going to be easy, absolutely not going to be easy. And that's one of the, I don't want to say beautiful, but one of the amazing and honestly beautiful things that came out of your situation is, and for those that don't know, I'd like to go into that as well, but the fact that what happened to you was horrific, absolutely horrific. And it's super emotional even to hear the story. But because of that, all of these positive things have, thus forward happened. So this terrible thing that's happened to you, and now, ever since then, year after year, you've been able to pay it forward and help other people and make them realize all the stuff we began talking about already.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So,
yeah, yes.
And I think that's what's key. I tell a lot of people that, so many people, they say, why do you do what you do? You could lay back and focus totally on just speaking and that being the only thing you do or whatever else. But I feel like I owe it to the guys and gals that didn't come home, especially the guys that we know, the guys that are on that granite wall that were friends of mine that didn't come home. I feel I owe it to them. Like I have to give back. because they would expect nothing less.
Absolutely.
And they would say, hey, you need to help our brothers and other guys and gals that are struggling when they come home.
Yeah, that's one of the things I learned almost immediately, working where I've worked in the past in the Navy, is that, for one, carrying on the mission, absolutely, first and foremost, but the amount of support that's there and the amount of carrying on of the memories and paying it forward that you're exactly doing right now, and that's how I described as a beautiful thing. That's exactly what that is, and I am always, so excited for people that I talk to, but it's almost more, and I like to be ecstatic and happy and positive, but it's a little bit more tough when you talk about these things, but they're real life things. They're things that have happened, and regardless, and it kind of coincides with something I've heard you say in the past, of like, regardless of what it's happened in the past, it's bad shit. It's and you wish you could change it, but you can't. So you do what you can, and I always say as well, like, it's bad, can go forward with that information. You make the best out of it, and you try to apply it to the future, because you sure as hell can't dwell on the past and all the situations and be in sore and self-pity about what had happened and wish it played out differently, because it played out as it did, and you can't change it. Yep.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of people. There's a new concept I've been developing. I'm working on a new book that'll probably come out at the end of 2019. It's much more of a self-leadership book. And one of the ideas is built around ambushes. I was in a real-world ambush. A lot of people have been in real-world ambushes, but in life, there are life ambushes.
Sure.
So there are moments that come along that totally catch you off guard and overwhelm you, no different than what an ambush does. It's designed to catch you off guard, overwhelm you. And so many people, when they get in either a real-world enemy ambush or a life ambush, they stop. They're just overwhelmed to the point they end up sitting on the X, right on the point of impact, the point of attack, and they don't do anything. And in a real world ambush, typically you die when you do that. In a life ambush, you don't move forward. You're just stuck on that spot. And so many people, when those life ambushes happen, that's what they do. They just sit on the X.
Yeah.
And moments where they sit on the X and they look back at what they've lost out of that catastrophic event. All they can think about is what I no longer have, what went wrong, whatever event happened. And they don't understand that in order to survive an ambush, whether it's a real world ambush or a life ambush, you got to get off the X.
Absolutely.
You have to move forward off that point of impact, off that point of attack. And it's forward. It has nothing to do with what's behind you.
Yeah.
Because what happened behind you is behind you. So it's one of the big things that I've been trying to teach is this idea of get off the X.
Yeah, I mean, again, as well as I that's you don't want to sit on the X in a real life ambush like that, in a tactical ambush. That's absolutely terrifying, and you're probably a dead man if you're sitting there longer than you have to be. But as far as, and I don't know how much you've gotten into your book and how much you want to divulge now, but how is that applicable to life? Because I know, like, in certain situations that I've been in the military, more times than not, it was because of my prior training that I just almost instinctually acted to, like, I knew what to do. I knew where my gear was. I knew exactly what to do in that instance. And it was just essentially, like I said, a reaction. It was instinctual because I had done it hundreds and thousands of times. So I'm just thinking off the top of my head here, if somebody is in a life ambush, maybe there's something they could have done to prepare for that better. But again, it's hard to see an ambush coming, so I think it might be harder to prepare for.
Well, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't see those ambushes coming, just like normally, typically you can't see the real world ambushes that come. That's why they're ambushes.
That's exactly.
But just like you train in the military to be prepared for them, you can train in the civilian world. And one of the things that I talk about is, finding balance in the areas of leadership where self-leadership is the key. I mean, now we're starting to get into the role of leadership with what I'm teaching. And most people get leadership confused because what they're first thinking of is, hey, I want to lead, teach me how to be a better leader of other people.
Sure.
But the reality is you are never going to be an effective leader if you can't effectively lead yourself. And the key to surviving real-world ambushes is how you lead yourself and how you find balance. And what I'm teaching is 5 key areas. The first area is physical leadership. So how well do you take care of yourself?
Yeah.
You know, do you watch your nutrition? Do you work out? Do you get decent sleep? All these things, because we know for a fact that the healthier you are, the better you're going to be able to manage stress, the better you're going to be able to manage the ups and downs.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Be able to manage whatever happens. Number 2 is mental leadership. What are you doing to educate yourself? Are you constantly hungry for knowledge? Are you reading books to learn about different things? Are you always broadening your horizon and looking for new ways to look at things? That's obviously going to make you strong. The second component of mental leadership is pushing outside of your comfort zone.
Sure.
This is something obviously we do a lot in the military, and people in the civilian world don't do as much. So I tell people you need to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
If you always live in your comfort zone, when a real world life ambush happens, it is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And let me take a break for a second so I can explain to people what a life ambush is.
Yeah, sure.
So I define a life ambush as a catastrophic event that happens in your life that'll forever leave a physical, mental, or emotional scar. So the lower level life ambushes I talk about are suddenly unexpectedly losing a job. You know, not like you're 18 years old and you got fired from McDonald's. Yeah. You know, you can go out and find another job to replace that. I'm talking about you're at a higher level in your career, and if you unexpectedly lost that job, you now have mortgages, you have payments, you have kids. Yeah. You know, that loss of income will have a monumental impact.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, the second one I would say is a divorce. Divorces are a really heavy emotional mess, and it will leave a scar on you. From there, it starts to go up. You know, it is a grievous accident. It is a life-threatening illness. You know, it is obviously getting up higher on the scale. You know, it is the levels of trauma that can occur to someone. You know, assault, or even, you know, so many people in this day and age have experienced sexual trauma. Those are definite life ambushes. And then getting to the higher levels is the loss of a loved one, and even the loss of a child is one that I've kind of seen. It just really has a tendency to destroy people. So those are the life ambushes that are going to come along and impact people. And thankfully, most of us only encounter a handful of these in our lifetime. But going back to how you prepare for them, going back to that, you know, physical leadership, mental leadership, get outside of your comfort zone, push yourself into those areas where you can manage the discomfort. You know,
absolutely.
You know, you can find some comfort in the discomfort because you'll be able to handle those situations a little better.
Yeah.
That is the resilient mind. Number 3 is emotional leadership. How do you manage your emotions? So many people fly off the handle right and left. Learning to manage your emotions, your ability to handle the high points, the elation, and anger and frustration, all these things, when those moments come, you're going to be a more emotionally mature individual to handle them.
Sure.
Number 3, social leadership. How do you build your networks? How do you build your team? How do you, you know, and that ring goes out. So your inner ring is your family. Even if you're not married, how do you manage your close family relationships? When real-world ambushes happen, you need that network of people. You need that team.
I completely agree.
And so it goes family, it goes friends, then it goes to your, you know, it could be your work relationships. From there, it goes to your external relationships. But spending time in your life, always, you know, building and taking time to nurture those relationships, because you'll need them. And then the highest one is spiritual leadership. So, you know, for some people it's religion. For others, it is getting outside of themselves, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through breathing exercises, whether it's through yoga, whether it's through sensory deprivation, whatever it is taking time to stop focusing on this, on yourself, and looking beyond, that there's way more to the world than just this person. And by getting out and being involved and understanding, being in touch with the spiritual higher plane, it enables you to better handle these situations. So anyways, that's the things that I'm working on to try and help people to get off the X in the moment.
No, I mean, those are all phenomenal. Whether we know, I mean, there's so many things that I've learned in my career and in this podcast, and knowing that you can't do it alone. I mean, you know, speaking about, you know, past careers, you sure can't do it alone. you got to go in there with the team. Whether it's in your life, I know there's so many things I couldn't do without, my wife and my close friends and with my family. There's so many things that go wrong in my life that I don't have the vision to figure out how to get over. Or maybe you were talking about emotions and being able to control your emotions, that I may not be approaching a situation rationally, and I may be, over dramatic or just blowing things out of proportion, and then somebody walks in and goes, well, no, it's like this, or it's like that, or look at it from this perspective. And it's not until somebody tells you from an outside perspective that you actually put it, and look into it rationally. So all those things put together, and of course you mentioned physical fitness as well, and I'm a huge advocate of taking care of your body, so that you can better take care of your mind, because if you don't take care of your body, then I know, if I eat bad, or if I'm not working out, or if I'm just not taking care of myself, plain and simple, I feel so much worse mentally, and I really start to get, either down on myself, or even maybe having depressive thoughts. And then it's not until I start doing all of these things that are making me, move around and active and challenge myself physically, that do I feel better mentally. And then when I feel better mentally, I'm more productive, I'm more helpful, and for my friends and my family, more supportive. All these things start coming together. So I like that you said all those points, because they're so interconnected. And maybe it's difficult to work on all of them at once, but approach them, a little bit by little bit, and or one thing at a time. If you're severely neglected in a certain area. And then of course you mentioned, whether it be spirituality, yoga, meditation, all of those things as well. So any outlet that can get you to focus outwards as well, as opposed to focusing in. But of course you started off with saying, you have to align yourself. You talked about leadership, having to align yourself before you can go out there and lead other people as well. So there's just so many things that are mutually beneficial, and I'm glad you're writing about it and speaking about it.
Thanks. And you brought up an interesting point. One of the things, depression. We have so many veterans who are struggling with depression. I have struggled with depression. I believe that depression is another area that is like it's sitting on the X.
Yeah.
And in this instance, what you're being ambushed by is that little demonic voice that lives inside you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he or she, whichever flavor of demon you got. They want to tell you, you're not good enough, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, or you have no self-worth, or whatever those things that, whatever reason we're made that way, and you end up listening, and we have a natural tendency to start spiraling down.
Yeah.
And we do all the exact opposite things of the things we should do. We don't work out, we don't take care of ourselves, we self-medicate with alcohol. We're not doing anything to educate ourselves. We're not expanding our mind. We're not emotionally managing ourselves, because all we're doing is focusing on how we're broken in the darkness. We're definitely not socially leading ourselves, because we want to isolate. And most of the time, we are not spiritually isolating ourselves, because a lot of times guys push all that away, or gals push all that away.
Yeah.
So I tell people, when you are spiraling down in depression, you have to get off the X. It is the same way. And it isn't. You have to get up and move. You've got to get one. I tell people, get out of the house. One, stay up, get off the alcohol. Do not drink when you're on the X with depression. It's only going to make it worse. And identify a fire team of 3 other individuals. 2 can be on the phone. 1 has to be local. 1 has to be local that you can go to them. But that's your fire team to get off the X. And I recommend every veteran out there that has ever struggled with post-traumatic stress, has ever struggled with the invisible wounds of war, to set that up, man. Identify your fire team and go, hey, man, I just want to let you know, I really think a lot of you. Sometimes I struggle, and I want you to be on my fire team, that if I get on the X, I might give you a call.
Yeah, it's absolutely important to be able to reach out to somebody. I know I've had some hard times, and my wife's there for me, my brother's there for me, and teammates that I had in the past, and they're there for you. And I think those people are, without a doubt, absolutely important in your life. And I would also, recommend that as well. But it's all these things, and one thing I thought of while you were talking is it kind of all like snowballs together. So if you're depressed and you're staying on the X, it just seems to get worse and worse and worse, because maybe you're having these depressive thoughts and you may be feeling down about yourself more than likely. So then, like you said already, you're not going to the gym, and because you're not going to the gym, then you're not being more productive, and because you're not being more productive, or you're not going to the gym, you're not being more supportive of your family. And it's just like, that's all I was thinking about as you were talking. It just makes like every single pillar that you listed out originally just starts crumbling, because it's almost like a domino. Like one falls and they could all they could all fall more easily. So it's really tough.
Yep.
But then there's obviously the complete inverse of that, is when you start taking care of yourself, looking inward and aligning yourself, and then supporting others, and then you realize people are supporting you even more, or you're emitting positivity, and then you're encountering more positivity around you, and you're being there for your spouse, or you're calling your family more often. Maybe they're calling you more, or you're calling your buddies that you serve with, or whoever, whatever career it is. Somebody that's experienced something with you, I know I would say for me is really important, because you go through certain things with people, specifically, and those people, they're on the same level with you mentally, and they can, they've been through it as well, so it's easier for them to understand than a complete stranger, is what I'm getting at. So all of those things are equally important, but yeah, staying on the X, that's absolutely deadly in any situation. And I think you're right, you just have to start moving, you have to get going. But I think a lot of times that first step may be the hardest one. People,
it is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just like a real world ambush, that we train. You're right. We train extensively to get you in the mindset to get off the X. But, having been literally, on the receiving end of a very well executed L ambush, it was absolutely overwhelming in the first few moments of fire. To have two machine guns have you in a crossfire with us 12 or 15 AK shooters shooting at you. Three of us went down within seconds. It is, everything says, oh my God, I just got to get down and hunker down. But really it's the opposite.
Yeah.
You got to fight forward. And so yeah, I just truly believe that it is comparable in life. And if you can learn to prepare yourself for that moment, you don't know what that moment is. I like the idea of this question, will you be ready? Mm-hmm. And a lot of people will say, for what? And yeah, exactly.
No, you're right. And just like you said, you train for it, and you don't know obviously when you're going to get ambushed, like we were talking about and joking about, or else it wouldn't be an ambush. But as and I beg the question, well, what about life? And I think that yes, you just prepare yourself, and you put yourself in, you said yourself, uncomfortable positions, and you push through, and you force this resistance through your life. And I'm a huge advocate of that, because if you haven't experienced any of that, then you're not going to know how to react when the shit really goes south. And same thing in, any kind of training, whether it's, we talk about military because obviously, we both served, whether it's, you're a nurse or you're whatever, if you've never performed, surgery before, and somebody comes into the ER, and how are you going to stop the bleeding? So if you haven't experienced something, there's more than likely you're going to set yourself up for failure. So yes, you need to practice these things. Absolutely.
And even the discomfort. I spoke for a group in Dallas on Wednesday, and one of the individuals that was there had immigrated from Georgia. And just this amazing story of growing up in this war-torn state, growing up in the former Soviet Union, having lived through the fall of the Soviet Union, and then being in Georgia, and then suddenly, he was part of this proud country of Georgia that got invaded by Russia. And suddenly he no longer had a country. And just his constant stories of living, he just said, every day we were just trying to survive. And I thought about that. And I thought about how many Americans right now, if we stuck them into that environment, how many would just crumble? Because we're blessed in this country to live in relative peace and prosperity. Even the poorest people out there have cell phones.
It's true.
And if they were truly placed in this uncomfortable position, would they be able to survive like this guy did? And now this guy, he's working for this big financial company, making money, doing great. But it was that overcome mindset, that drive, that grit, that continuing to navigate these life ambushes and saying, well, I'm going to drive forward instead of.
Well, and he of course made the the decision to not. I'm sure he could have been stagnant and could have been a victim of his surroundings and his environment, but he made a choice to move forward. And I think there's a lot of people in this country that, yeah, absolutely, everybody's problems and everybody's situations, I think, are relative. I think that goes without saying. I know you understand that, of course, but at the same time, like, man, everybody has a choice for the most part. And yes, there's some situations where maybe in whatever scenario you don't have a choice to make your situation better. I'm sure somebody could argue that, but for the most part, like you said, I couldn't agree with you more that at least in this country, for the most part, you have so much opportunity. So it's hard, and I think a lot of people don't maybe have the incentive to do it, because you can live a quote unquote impoverished life and still have a cell phone and still have these, you still have running water and have all these commodities. So what incentive is there to progress out of that and to get off the X? It can be tough, I think, when there's no. I keep on using incentive, but that's the best word right now that I can think of.
Well, it would be hope.
Hope
is really what it is. When
sure.
People will say there's no hope, but you make hope. Hope is manufactured from within you.
Yeah.
Every single person on this planet has a little ember burning inside them. And sometimes that ember fades down until nothing, but it's a barely smoking piece of coal. But, coal can burn, man, and it can burn really, really hot. But you've got to reignite it. So, for individuals out there that try and tell me, oh, well, I can't get out of this situation, or I can't find hope in this situation. Sure. Man, you read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. I mean, he was a German psychologist, he was a Jewish psychologist that got pulled into Auschwitz as part of the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you talk about the most hopeless situation you could imagine, watching his friends be exterminated and gassed, and people would just die, and they would just toss the bodies out. And then at night, they would go out, even though it was punishable by beatings and even death. They would go out and they would see what these guys, their dead friends, had in their pockets to survive. And he made a choice, though, that they could take everything from him, but they weren't going to take his self-worth. They weren't going to take his dignity. And he was going to hold himself to a higher standard because of that. I mean, he manufactured hope within himself. So if he can do it in that situation, and I'm not saying this is easy. Obviously, it's not. I mean, that's about one of the most hopeless situations you can imagine. But we can too.
Yeah,
and I
possible.
Firmly believe it is a choice. It is a choice to try and reignite that ember inside you when you may think it's burned out.
No, I agree. I very much agree. And then, that is an absolutely hopeless. I mean, I cannot begin to tell you and pretend like I would know what that would feel like. I don't think that's possible. But I can imagine as best I can. And you're right. If somebody can do that in the I mean, it's so hard. I have too much of imagination to think about your friends dying all around you, your family getting pulled away from you, and you're pushing past death and those beatings to get whatever it is, a breadcrumb. But yes, if he can do it, I would think and I would hope that other people realize that they can do it in their situations as well. And sometimes I think people, it's not so negative like, hey, I don't want to do anything. I think maybe they don't know that they can do it, right? They don't know that hope is existent, that they can push past and they can get off the X. And I think that's another part that what this is about and what you're doing. You speak with everybody, you talk, you teach, you have seminars, you have classes, you have, I think you just, I know, and I kind of wanted to talk about it too, the Blue Star Veterans Network that you're doing, that teaching people, just all these things that you're doing, and they show people that there is hope and that you can do things, and help teach people, help teach them leadership skills, help teach them to hopefully if they're experiencing depression, get how to overcome it and start getting moving and take that first step forward like we were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So no, I've been very fortunate. I mean, I think right now the key thing that we're doing is this new Overcome Academy with Wounded Warriors, which actually, interestingly enough, was designed to be a program for civilians, to help teach civilians leadership structure, goal setting. And,
oh yeah, I'm sorry, I
mindset.
misspoke. That's what I was thinking of. The Overcome Academy. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I got my hands in a lot of pots.
Yeah, you do.
But no, the Overcome Academy, and we will be expanding that program to the civilian world. As a matter of fact, right now I'm looking at turning it into an online curriculum.
Okay.
Where people can sign up to, take those classes, and each class would be, I've been talking to different people about how they do that. Each class would be about 5 to 10 minutes, but on, this entire gamut, this,
sure.
We're running a 2-week curriculum. Now, the second week is on speaking. I'm teaching these wounded warriors how to speak and how to, what I call, tell their story with a purpose. As a matter of fact, Kristof, I mean, with your background, you would be eligible to go through that program.
Oh, fantastic.
So if you want to talk offline about that,
yeah.
we're always looking for good students. But the first part of the program is all about leadership, self-leadership, goal setting, structure, overcome mindset, how to establish what your mission statement is in the civilian world, helping you to understand what your purpose is, what your strengths, what your weaknesses. We peel the onion back and we get people to try and boil down what their life's mission objective is. In the military, we had that mission objective. I make them look at what's your life's mission objective. So what is mission accomplishment on the day you check out? So you have passed away, you're at your funeral. What do you wish people would say about you, the legacy that you left behind? And if you're not working towards that in your everyday life, then you're missing out. You need to be able to identify that. And then we help them set up short and long-term goal setting. So I'm, taking that curriculum and we're turning that into a program that we can, hopefully get out there to more people, and then this online curriculum.
Yeah, I think that's a great mindset to be able to do that. I know I can tell you without a doubt that I've thought to that last day, whenever it may be, and I thought about what I want to accomplish in my life, the family that I want to raise, the people that I want to impact, and I think it is a good idea to work backward from that. And then, of course, you have a multitude of goals along the way, and you have to understand that you have to be flexible, and they're going to change. Without a doubt, it's not going to be a straight path.
Yeah. Constantly.
But I did like what you said, because I got with the confusion with the group, because you talked about the class and you said you had your hands in a lot of pockets and you're doing a lot of things. But from obvious reasons, one of the many reasons I wanted to have you on here is because you are doing so many things. You're not just having your hand in one thing. You described the course that you're doing, the 2-week course for veterans, and then also I know, of course, wounded warrior is a huge thing. Right, and I wanted to get into that. I know a lot of that is for veterans that may, have amputees, and you're changing clothing so they can obviously wear it better or do whatever. And I know even, what was it, recently you had the Inspirational Achievement Award.
Yeah, with Runway of Dreams.
Yeah, and that was really recent. I saw that pop up, and that was awesome to be able. So congratulations on that. And it's just you're making such an impact, and it's really cool to be able to see that. And like I started the podcast with this absolutely horrific thing that happened to you. You got through it. You blew past that X. You got up. You got off your ass. And again, you're talking about Nazi Germany. I can't even. It's hard to put myself in the place of. And I'm sure most everybody knows who you are, but obviously you got shot in the arm, the left arm. You got shot in the face. To be sitting there, and I don't want to say it for you if you want to say it or whatever, but to put myself in your position, you're talking about putting yourself in somebody else's position like that, and me to put myself in your position is really hard for you to be able to get up in a well executed ambush and to help your teammates get off the X, and then here you are today, and then you're not, that's your own story, and it's just hard for me to talk about because I can't imagine it. And you blew past that. You got off that X, and you're doing everything you are now. It's just, for me, talk about emotions. Like, that's emotional for me. For you to experience all of that, it makes me lose words to, like, describe, like, getting through that and then, like, paying it forward. That's, like, the ultimate, that's the epitome of what this podcast is about. So I think that's incredible that you're doing that. It's so inspirational, and that's obviously what this is conversations with inspirational people. And I think that if somebody like yourself can endure something like that and thrive and survive and help other people after all that, I mean, that's inspirational. So whether you're downtrodden or depressed or whatever, like move forward and then continue to help others and show them that there is hope.
Absolutely, and that's the secret, and that's something that I figured out very early. There is healing in helping other people. For whatever reason, as human beings, we have a natural tendency. We're just made this way. I'm the same way. A lot of people are always surprised when I tell them I'm naturally a negative person, and people are like,
that is surprising.
You're Mr. Positive, you're Mr. Overcome, but my natural tendencies are negative. When something goes wrong, the first thought in my head is a negative thought.
Yeah.
It's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah, but you know how to react to it. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. And what I learned is you can manage that. Sometimes it's a war that rages within me, but
Absolutely.
I know I'm gonna manage that war. It's not gonna manage me. And what I've come to learn is that by helping other people, it's cathartic, and it helped me right from the beginning by realizing that I had power, that I could motivate and inspire other people from what I went through. There was power in that, and there was healing in that for me. And it kept me driving forward, and it still keeps me driving forward to this day. So I encourage everybody. It's funny, I haven't figured out exactly where I put that within I call it my 5 areas, the Pentagon of performance.
Sure.
So helping other people, it falls into social leadership, but in some ways I almost feel like it falls into spiritual leadership, because you're forced to get outside of yourself, and you're forced to look at somebody else's problems and help them. But there's so much healing and self-worth in knowing that you can have a positive impact on somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of overlapping as well. I mean, you may not necessarily have to put, one thing into a certain category, because all of it's interconnected in one way or another. They're all mutually beneficial. They all help each other out. Or like we said, on the inverse, they could all make each other worse. But I know for a fact that helping other people, without a doubt, helps you. I said it even when you're emitting positivity, or you're just reaching out and asking people how their day is, or how that you can help them. It's more than likely returned to you. And you don't, you don't do it with like, oh man, I want to be helped, and I want this and I want that, so I'm gonna just help people so I can get that return to me. But you do learn a lot like that, like you were saying. You learn a lot from helping other people, and it helps you so much. And I know that any time that I've reached out to somebody and I've tried to help them, and they've really taught me a lot about myself as well. And that goes back to the thing that I always subscribe to, is that there's absolutely no one that I have met that hasn't taught me something in some way or another, at any age, at any point in my life. And I know that anytime I've reached out and I've helped somebody, they made me realize more than likely, something about myself too.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't want to ever, and I say this a lot too, but I don't ever want to like think that I don't have something to learn from somebody. Like, you've taught me already so much, and everybody that I reach out, or that reaches out to me on the podcast, or whether it's Instagram or Facebook or whatever, it doesn't matter. Anybody I talk to, they teach. They have something to teach you. I think it's a very ignorant thought to think that nobody can to teach you something.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody has a story. I don't care who they are. There's something that's happened in their past that you've never experienced, and that they learned something from, and you could learn something.
Yeah, and that's the craziness of it. I mean, you have absolutely no idea what people have gone through in their lives, and you can't tell, just by looking at somebody that they went through this and that, and not until you start talking with them and have these deep kind of conversations with them do you realize that, and do you realize that you guys have a lot, or guys or girls have a lot to teach each other, and you have no idea. And I mean, I could say I'm 31 years old. I've had plenty of people on here that are younger than me. I've had, people in their lower 20s, mid-20s, at any age. And, man, they teach me a lot. They're these entrepreneurs. They're these TED Talk speakers. And they are just crushing life and doing great. And they've had their own hardships to go through. And I could have, come through and been like, oh, they're 20 years old. They don't have anything to teach me. But, gosh, they sure have taught me a lot.
I learned something. You should, if you get a chance, go on my Facebook page and scroll back a few days. I posted a video on there about a young lady. She was a star basketball player playing college basketball, and she was in a severe car accident.
Okay.
Or getting ready to go to college. She might have been a senior when this happened, but was in a severe accident, massive brain trauma, and barely survived, and had to learn to walk again, had to learn to talk again, everything.
Yeah.
And her dad talked about she's not the same girl. She's a new girl, but a new girl with these amazing things. But she remembers everything. And one of the lessons she talked about that I thought was just phenomenal, and how they talked about how well she's doing in rehab and how quickly she's recovered. And it was a lesson she carried from basketball. I get something about her junior year. They went to the championship game and they lost by 2 points. Ooh. So she told herself that for the next year, everything she did, she was going to add 2 to it. So if they said, hey, you need to do 10 pull-ups, she was going to do 12. If they said you need to run 2 miles, she was going to run 4. And that entire next year, she followed this principle. And they came down to the championship, and it went into tied again. And she got fouled, 2 free throws. They won the championship.
Holy smokes.
So then she was in this incredible car accident, and she had that mindset for so long. You talk about will you be ready when that moment comes?
Yeah.
She had prepared herself to be ready. So when she went into rehab and they would say, okay, we want you to take 2 steps, she'd say, well, I'm going to take 4. And, it was just this amazing, I mean, you should have her on.
Yeah.
I tell you what.
My mind's, believe me, I'm always looking and listening. Yeah. And that's absolutely inspirational. That's amazing.
She's shooting baskets again.
Wow.
And incredible. So her name is Anna. I can't think of her last name, but if you look on my Facebook page, her video is on there.
I will find her most certainly. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. Wow. I'm glad you share that. Like I don't know, and I think there's so many people, I mean, and you say thinking negative thoughts immediately. I think about that too. You think about getting in a horrific car accident when you're going to play college ball. You could be like, man, my life is over. There's no hope for me. I'm never going to, never mind, take a step. I'm never going to play ball again. I'm not going to do all of these things. But to have that mindset, to be able to go in there and be like, nope, I'm gonna do 4, not 2, or I'm going to, again, like, it's hard to put yourself in that position, and you only hope that you can react like that. Well, and I would say you don't want to hope for those things, and that's like when you're talking about you don't want to hope, you want to plan for it, right? You want to be able to put yourself in resistance. So she planned for it herself.
It's a choice.
Exactly. She was doing 2 of extra, you said, for a whole entire year, and then this horrific thing happened to her, and she was able to implement, no, 2 more, no, 2 more, no, 2 more. And that's an exact perfect example of what you were saying about preparing, before. So that's a great answer for the, I was asking you, how do you prepare for a life ambush? I mean, that's how you prepare for a life ambush. You take 2 more steps before, or you do 2 more of everything, or whatever it is, for whatever you're doing. And that's incredible. So you have the book coming, or are you working on the book yet? Or you said the book maybe the next late 2019?
Yeah, so we're a little delayed in the negotiations with the contracting company or the publishing company.
Sure.
So we're just kind of waiting to get that finalized, and then that'll determine whether it will come out the end of 2019 or early 2020. But most of the book is written. Every chapter, I'm going to be reaching out to high-level, ex-special operations business leaders. Sure. Individuals who will add credibility to that chapter. So for the different things that we talk about. So physical leadership, what is the story where physical leadership has played this pivotal part in enabling your elite level of success? I can tell you right now, I'm still alive because of my fitness when I was wounded. The amount of blood I lost, I was in the best shape for my life. I was screening to go to our higher level team in the teams. And I was literally in the best shape of my life. And doctors told me that my fitness was the only thing that I survived from the amount of blood loss I took, from the amount of trauma that I took to my body, that someone who had not been in as good a shape would not have survived.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't get a more real example of that. That's insane. I mean, coupled with, and that's not just physical training with your body, but all the the gear training, everything that you've done, and all prepared you. So that is absolutely applicable to your life now, to be able to put yourself through those as best as you can and just not live a complacent life. Absolutely agree that complacency is a bad place to be. It's that stagnant place, sitting on the X. It's just not a place where you want to be.
No, movement is life, man. This machine.
You go crazy, like you said. Just get out of the house, man. Like if you're just sitting there all day, you got to get out of the house. You got to do something. You got to move. You got to change your scenario. The body is meant to move. I subscribe to that 100%. Like you just got to get out. You got to move. And I don't care if you're not if you're not into weightlifting, that's fine. If you're not into running, that's fine. Like find something that go hike, go do something. If you're into hunting, go hunt. Like go run around with your kids. But like I think the body needs to move, and I think you just need to go outside. You need to enjoy the outdoors, because I feel great. I was just posting about it this week, but just getting outside and going in the hiking or in the woods or wherever it is, and just changing your scenery and just like getting away from all the concrete and the pavement, and just getting outside of nature makes you just really appreciate the beauty that's around us. Yeah, it's crazy. And it's a tool, and I've talked about it before, the cell phone, for those listening. It's great. I love cell phones. It's how I reach a lot of people, right? That's how you reach a lot of people too, I'm sure. But you find, and even me, I'm not perfect. It's
a double-edged sword.
It's absolutely a double-edged sword. And sometimes I find my head down, facing at my lap, looking at my phone, and I have to realize that, wow, yes, this is a tool and I need to use it to reach all these people, but you can't spend your entire day doing that, and it can be tough. It can be tough for a lot of people, I think, especially now. I didn't have my own cell phone until I was in college, but I think with people, they grow up with that, and it can be tough, if you're not raised correctly to do that.
Yeah.
You're always
I struggle with my own kids with it.
Yeah.
So, trying to find that balance and, teach them how to still engage and socialize and, not live in this stupid thing.
Yeah, it's tough, but you're right. It comes from the parenting, and that's a completely different conversation. But it's how you're raised, and I think a lot of that too. Like we were talking about facing adversity and resistance, and like preparing for life ambushes. Probably, a lot of it could be helped if parents didn't support all of what you're talking about with keeping your head in the phone and all of that lack of resistance.
Yep. Do you have kids?
So actually, my wife and I are expecting. We have about from this recording, we have about 3.5 months until we have a little baby girl.
Oh man, that is awesome! Congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah,
I have 3, so mine are all teenagers now. Teenage girls, man, give you a run for your money.
Oh man, luckily I have a few years. Yeah, I got a few years before that, but we're equally excited, nervous, terrified, all of the above. But absolutely, first and foremost, we are thrilled and excited to be in that position. And I'll be honest with you here and everybody listening, that's by far one of the top reasons I got out of the military, is so that I could be with them, because I was, before I had kids, I knew that that's what the Navy entailed. I was gone, 200 days out of the year, whether it was training or whether it was deployments. And, as you said earlier, not everybody comes back, and that's always on the table when you're doing certain jobs. And for me, I made the decision, and my time was up in my eyes. So,
yeah.
I knew I wanted to have a family. So, and people, will, agree or disagree, but, I know what my reasons are. So, and I'm just happy to be looking at you, face to face via Skype, and see, you're here with your family, and it's just a great thing, and to be able to do that. So I know I made the right decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I see your books stacked up back there. Fearless is one of the 6th or 7th book down.
Oh yeah.
I tell everybody, everybody likes to ask me what SEAL book I recommend, and I was friends with Adam. That book and his story is, man, it's just a phenomenal story. You talk about it, it's a love story, him and his wife. It is a story of overcoming so many different things. I won't give the book away if someone has not read it, because there are so many stories in there that but I didn't know some of the things about Adam. I knew Adam from when he was a new guy. I sat on Adam's Trident board. So to read some of the stuff in there and be like, what? So yeah, if anybody's listening to this and they're looking for a good sealed book, go read Fearless.
Yeah, that was an absolutely inspirational book, and I probably won't talk about it too much, but it was great, and I highly recommend it. And just some of the things that he went through, like being able to do all the training, that he did with certain things happening to him. Like, I'm not going to get into it, but it's both equally hilarious and inspirational to me at a certain point. Like, the fact that he could just push through all these things happening to him, and he's just like, oh, whatever, like, just continue doing them. Or it's absolutely great. And I think, that's a great point. All these bad things can happen to you, but like you said, it's how you react to it, right? So you can't control always the bad things happening to you, but you can control how you react to it. So just make the best of it. And it's going to be super hard, but again, like, we're beating it to death, but for a reason. Like, it can be hard, but it can be easier to deal with when you know how to deal with it, or you know how you're going to react when you're facing adversity, really, because you don't know what's going to happen.
Find that hope. Nobody's expecting you. I didn't get wounded and show up in the hospital and from day one be like, all right, nothing but forward. It took me about a week before I kind of came to grips with what had happened. And it was at that point that I made the decision. I really was, I'll be honest, I was kicking myself. I was depressed. I was really struggling with what had happened. And I was sitting on the edge. And I finally came to the realization, though, that I could not change what had happened.
Yeah.
No amount of feeling sorry for myself, no amount of looking back, no amount of kicking myself, wondering, what if you had made a different decision?
Yeah.
None of that could change what had happened.
Yeah.
So the only thing I could do was drive forward. Well, and I think that's what I want to tell people that are out there. If you're struggling with something, sometimes you need a little bit of time to process it. Nobody's going to walk along when something bad happens to you, or they shouldn't, and be like, hey, suck it up and let's go. Maybe if you've been sitting on the X for, a long time, yes, there comes a period where you got to do that. But you need time to process it.
Yeah.
And then at that point, that's when you got to figure out, okay, you can't change it.
Yeah, and I think about your situation. I know the first time I heard your story, and I think any time anybody gets shot in the head and they live to survive, I think about, or you may have thought about, like you said, well, what if I would have moved this way, or what if I would have moved that way? My first thought is, well, what if you moved that way and it went into your brain? Or, you could have, an inch or two, and you could have been dead just as easy as it could have missed you. It could have actually just in an instant taken you out. So I think that goes with saying, without a doubt, what has happened, and whatever decision you made, that's the decision you made. And for you, I'm here talking to you right now years later because of that decision, regardless of if you did get hit. So regardless if you get hit in life, if you get ambushed, it's happened, and just press forward. I'm really excited. It's maybe a year away or a year and a half away for the book, but I'm already excited to read it, having heard about it already.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to get it out there. I think I'm hoping it will help a lot of people. And like I said, I got a lot of stuff coming online. Hopefully within the next 4 to 5 months, we'll have the online training, the Overcome Academy training online. I am launching actually here shortly coaching. So individuals can contact me. So I've got 4 different sets of coaching I'm doing. So I have a 30-minute session, which is basically just a phone call. You fill out a form. You tell me, these are the areas that I'm looking for help in. You give me a brief summary, and then we schedule a call and spend about 30 minutes talking through issues, providing some advice. From there, then there's an hour session. The hour session also comes with an action plan after I'm done, an action plan. I have a 1-month session where once a week we get on a call. So the first call is a discussion. Then you'll get an action plan, and then we'll talk through forward progress, encouragement, where we move from there.
I think that's a great plan.
And then I've got a 3-month plan where it's 12 phone calls. So 1 phone call a week for 3 months. So that's on my website. That's live this week. But so for those out there who are, if you're sitting on the X, or if you're looking, if you're looking for some leadership advice, I've got 21 years military experience. I got 9 years nonprofit experience. I got 5 years business leadership experience. So Probably somewhere I can help provide some advice.
Absolutely.
And if I can't give it to you in the moment, then I got friends who can obviously offer.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. Absolutely great idea. And you're doing, and you don't stop. Like, it's not even that you got off the X initially. Like, you're continuing. That's like a huge thing to take away. Like, you're starting this up, like you just said. You're just not stopping. You're always looking for ways to better yourself, to help others, and just to better everything around you. And that's just another huge key that I've picked up from you, is that you're just never stopping, whether it's your physical fitness, right? It's always maintaining, whether it's self-alignment, whether it's helping other people. All these projects that you're doing, you start them, you put your first foot forward, and you keep on moving.
Yep. Moving is life.
Jason, thank you so much again for being here with me today and speaking with me. I know you're insanely busy. Like we said, you're doing so many different things. So for you to speak with me here today, again, like I truly am honored for that, sharing so many things and so much advice, and it's just so much information that has been so great for me. I've learned so much from you, and for all the listeners and viewers as well. So thank you.
Kristof, my honor, man.
What's the best way for everybody to contact you? Is it your Facebook, your website? We'll have it linked below, but what do you prefer?
Yeah, probably my website, jasonredman.com. Because from there you can find all my Facebook, media. You can find coaching. You can find my podcast. You can find my online store. You can book me to speak. So it's kind of the one-stop shop where you can get everywhere.
Absolutely. Well, we'll throw it in the summary, and everybody will be able to contact you that way. And again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Yeah, absolutely, Kristof. And yeah, man, our Overcome Academy, like I said, if it's something you're ever interested in, we're always looking for good veterans to go through it. The goal is, there are requirements afterwards. There's a 6-month commitment once you leave, where you have to get back out in the community. You have to speak for a school, you have to speak for a business, and you have to take on a mentorship role with a youth program in your community. So whether it's, coach a little league team, whether it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, anything like that.
Okay.
But our goal is to get, veterans back out in the community as leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. And take what they've learned and apply it and help out others and help the community. I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah, thanks, brother.
Jason, thanks so much for speaking with me.
Yeah,
let's see you later, man.
Absolutely. Kristof, good talking to you, man. Have a great night, and good luck with that baby.
Yeah, thanks so much. See ya.
Yeah, man. Bye.